Hi, my name is Charles, and this is an introduction video in a series that'll teach you how to get your first million users for your mobile application using Facebook. You know, typically, when you've built your games in the past, the primary channel that you'd use to get growth is the App Store. If you get enough people downloading it early on, you can get into the top 10, maybe you get an editor's pick, and that's when things really take off. But when you're using Facebook, you get some additional channels. We actually add 3 additional growth channels for you to use, and they can all go back and reinforce your app strategy story. You have the Open Graph, which lets you post custom actions and objects to the Facebook timeline and newsfeed. You have invitations, which you can use to actually get new users to join your application, invited from existing users. And you have mobile install ads, which are great for kicking things off. Let's look at each of these channels in just a little bit more detail. In the past, when you wanted to post something to Facebook, the way you do it is by adding a simple post, which may contain either a string of text or a photo. Today with Open Graph, you can do something much richer and more sophisticated. You can actually create custom objects that describe things directly in your game. So maybe it's an achievement someone has accomplished. Maybe they've beat a boss or they got a character. You can actually create custom stories that do a better job of relaying the important things about your application and forming something that people would really want to share with their friends. These stories will show up in Newsfeed, they'll show up in Timeline. Their friends will see that, and that'll drive new traffic directly to your application. These stories will link directly to the store, so when they're on the mobile devices, it'll actually drive new people to install your app. Invitations are the primary way that you get your existing friends to get new people into your game. That's really the basis of what makes something social. Anybody can build invitations in a game. What really makes things special with Facebook is that we're able to provide additional context and access to additional friends that you might not otherwise reach. Because of that, you'll find it's much easier to create a really relevant friend invitation scenario that's going to make users more likely to actually invite somebody new to use your game. Finally, mobile install ads are a new product that we rolled out in 2012 that gives you a non-organic way to tap into our news feed. So this is perfect for when you're first kicking off an application and you want to actually grow it. Finally, in this series, we're going to talk a little bit about re-engagement channels. Now, these aren't Facebook-only channels. In fact, notifications and email, which are the primary channels you use to re-engage users, don't require you to use Facebook at all. But because they're very essential to building great social applications, we want to give you a little bit more information about it. So how do you use these things when you're building a game? Well, the most important thing to keep in mind is the application lifecycle of your game. There's a difference between games and social applications in this respect. For a typical social application, users may engage with it and keep using it for many years to come. When you think about Facebook, for example, a typical person might start using Facebook, and once they get engaged with it, they may continue to use Facebook for many, many years. I certainly hope they do. For games, it tends to be a little bit different. Most people will play your game for a little bit, eventually they'll get tired of it, and they'll move on to something else. We think of games as being consumable. Now, obviously, not everybody's the same way. Some people will play your games for a few weeks, some people will play it for months, some people may play your game for years, but for the most part, games are something that people tend to use for a little while and then move on to the next thing. And the way that you engage people socially depends on where they are in this life cycle. For example, if you're just starting a game and you're just kicking things off, nobody knows anything about you. That's the right time to buy mobile install ads. It's not organic, it doesn't require anybody to know anything, but it's going to get you some great exposure and help push up your rankings in the App Store. Later on, once someone's installed your game and you've got them to play with it a little bit, then they start to enjoy your game. That's when you might want to think about posting achievements to the app, to Timeline. So consider, for example, if someone's just beat the first big boss or they've upgraded their character. That's a good time when you might want to post something to Open Graph. Focus on things that really are valuable that people might want to remember later. Focus on doing it in this early stage when people are really excited about your game and their engagement and frequency of use of your game is still growing. As you get up towards the top, and you're pretty convinced that someone really likes your game, that's the right time to ask them to invite other people to use your app. This is something that a lot of people mess up. Unless you're kind of a with friends type of game where the whole premise is inviting your friends, for the most part, you want to let people play your game a little bit before you start asking them to invite their friends, especially people that they don't know. Because in order to do that, they need to trust your game, and they can't trust your game until they've played it. So wait until they've done that. Now, once people are playing your game very actively, that's the time when push notifications become really most effective. Push notifications work best when someone's engaging with your game every single day. Think of someone who's played your game in the last 1 to 7 days. You can send them notifications, tell them when something new has happened, tell them when it's time for them to re-engage, and they'll really appreciate it. But you have to be really careful, because once people start to drop off the other end of the curve, once you see that they stop responding to notifications or something like that, they can quickly start to view these not as welcome notifications from you, but as spam. And that's actually going to make them less likely to engage with you the next time that you release a game. Which brings me to the final place that you'd really want to use notifications. When you see someone drops off and they stop using your game, you can try to keep them engaged a couple times, but if they stop responding, cross-sell. Use this as an opportunity to get them on to the next game. Hopefully you've built one already. If you haven't, work on finding a partner who you can engage in instead. The point is, you want to connect with your user where they are in the life cycle. That's the most important thing about building a social game, is you're building a relationship with your actual users. So make sure that you respect where they are in the life cycle. Invite the existing new users first when you're setting up invitations, and then you can get new users once they've engaged with your app, your game, they know you, and you think that they trust you. And focus on posting really important events to somebody's timeline. Don't post that they just played the game for the first time. Don't post when they've just got through your tutorial. Wait until they've accomplished something that's meaningful to that person, so they're going to really want to share it with their friends on Facebook. Finally, use push notifications to keep people engaged, and then when they start to drop off, use them to cross-sell. That's the key to creating a lasting business with games when you're using social.